Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by thesoberclub.com. I'm Janey Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi and welcome to the podcast. I hope you're well. And isn't it amazing that the sun has come out a bit this week? I feel so blessed to see a bit of sunshine. So it's been a really interesting week in the Sober Club. There's been some really interesting conversations. I thought I'd share some of them with you, actually, because I think sometimes it's just great to see the kind of stuff the members talk about, and it helps us really remember, even if we've been sober for absolutely years, it helps us remember what it was like in those early weeks. You know, this is why I always say, and I'm banging on about it, but you know, I always say that however long you've been sober, or if you're at day one, we need connection. It's just so important to have that sense of other people who've kind of been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and to know that there are other people who feel just the way you do. Really, it makes such a massive difference. We had a wonderful connection the other night, a wonderful session, really tiny little group doing our soul and spirit session, self-care for the sober curious and the sober. Really tiny event, but really nice to be able to share with people as to what's going on for them, whatever stage they're at. And the gorgeous venue that we used in Hertfordshire, it's this beautiful kind of wooden building. It's really gorgeous. And they've got this lovely little cat, and this gorgeous cat literally came and sat at the front on the seat that I'd kind of laid out for myself as leading the session. The cat just sat there. It was just so determined to actually lead that session. It was really lovely. Anyways, so yeah, what I wanted to share with you is some of the stuff we've been talking about in the club. It started because one of our members wrote a post saying, I've been sober for over 4 years now and completely happy, completely comfortable with my new normal. But my husband filled up 4 glass-litre bottles from huge barrels of sherry and port in a mountain rest stop cafe in the Pyrenees for Christmas gifts. Strangely, I'm experiencing some minute fleeting cravings for the taste of them. Must be an old memory stirring. It's nothing serious. I just thought I'd share this moment. I won't do it, of course, because who needs it? And I thought that was just so great to share that, because it's absolutely true. Even when you've been sober for absolutely ages, your unconscious mind throws back this memory, and it's never the memory of the really crap times, waking up at 3 a.m, feeling terrible, wondering what it is you'd written to somebody, wondering who you texted, knowing that you are not firing on all cylinders, knowing that you're not being the best partner, friend, parent you can be. Never throws up those memories. It always brings back that kind of little lovely glamorous image. We look back with the rose-coloured spectacles. And of course there is a technical name for this. It's a psychological phenomenon known as fab, but it is in fact anything but fab. It stands for the fading affect bias. And it's this phenomenon which actually means that memories that are associated with negative emotions will be forgotten much more quickly than those associated with positive emotions. Now, I guess this is for good reason, because otherwise we'd all kind of, be forever reliving traumas and constantly thinking about how difficult, childbirth was or whatever pain we've had to go through. Whereas actually, of course, we want to remember the positive memories. So, it's the way our unconscious mind works. It's another way it likes to keep us safe. That kind of, let's go back to what we've always done that seemed to give us a quick fix, as it were. So it's a well-known phenomena, but it's really interesting when it's kind of laid out like that. And it was such a helpful post. And then I obviously kind of explained that that's what it is, this fading effect bias. But I also reminded people in the club that actually sometimes if you do decide, okay, I think I'll go back, I'll have a taste of said alcohol. Oh my God, it tastes like petrol. It is absolutely terrifying when you've not drunk alcohol for a long time and you accidentally cop a drink. It's literally like petrol. Seriously, it's just awful. Hopefully it makes you realize very, very quickly that the emperor isn't in fact wearing any clothes and it has zero benefits. And then another member wrote on here and saying, this is interesting. And it's one to remember as I approach 6 months alcohol free. I had a visit from the wine witch last week, but strangely, I have felt stronger since fighting her off this time. And good things are happening, but I know I have to be on my guard. It's true. It's about, staying resilient, staying connected, staying focused, making sure that you've really got that logic piece, around alcohol. And then another member said, I'm nearly 4 years sober, and I also do have fleeting moments when it feels like drinking is still part of my lifestyle. It surprises me how close it can feel sometimes, even though I'm truly content and at peace with my life and have no desire to go back to my drinking at any capacity. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? An interesting kind of reminder that these unconscious thoughts will still pop up, these triggers. Other people in the club sometimes talk about having drinking dreams. I'm sure some of you have had that experience. Often that can happen in the early weeks of sobriety. We're doing super well, and then we'll wake up feeling absolutely panicky because the dream in which we had gone back to drinking felt so real. And I'm guessing that is our unconscious mind literally giving us a warning. You seriously don't want to be going back there. And then one more interesting post that I thought I'd share with you was from someone who is only a few days into sobriety and was and still having, I'm guessing, lots of ups and downs, lots of chaotic thoughts, very common in the early days. And this member said, I'm finding it all a struggle. Surely, I can just go back to having, 1 or 2 glasses and drink, in inverted commas, normally. And of course, you can imagine the response that got, because of course you can choose to moderate if you want to. You can choose to be a mindful drinker. But generally, if you actually have an issue with alcohol, if you're listening to this podcast, then alcohol's a thing for you, right? Or at least you certainly appreciate that there are many people who do not have an off switch. So if you don't have an off switch and you accept and recognize that you have an issue with alcohol and you know that you end up drinking more than you want to, then I would suggest that moderation is practically impossible. Being mindful is practically impossible. I think the only mindful drinkers are those people who don't need to be mindful because drinking isn't an issue for them. They have a sherry at Christmas and they don't have anything again till the summer when they might fancy half a shandy. It really is not a thing in their life at all. They're the people who are mindful without needing to be mindful. They naturally moderate because it isn't a thing for them. It's really not an issue. So, our answer, obviously, many of us said, well, you're going to find moderation hard. But as I've said so many times on this podcast, if you're early days and you listen to this and you're thinking, oh God, no, I really don't want to stop completely. I'm sure I am a mindful drinker. I really can do this. Then my top tip would be, start with at least 30 days of abstinence. Start with that. Give yourself a fighting chance. But you know what I'm going to say? You are not allowed to use the phrase giving up. You have to spend those 30 days focusing only on what you're gaining. And this is where, if you do have support, it's so much easier. Come and join us in the Sober Club. It's super cheap. It's amazing value. You get a 90-day course you can work from. You get huge amounts of exclusive content, including videos from William Porter on cravings, a whole raft of stuff around nutrition, obviously all the support of the group. And that way you can focus for those early weeks when it can feel a little tricky on everything you're gaining and focus on what you can add in rather than focus on what you are giving up. And then, of course, if you do decide to move forward, then, you're going to have to put some boundaries in place. So, so what I wanted to share with you this week is a recording that I did a little while ago with Professor Sir Ian Gilmore. So this came about because I did an interview with Susan from the Sober Code. I'm sure some of you will remember that interview. She had such a fascinating story. And Susan is very actively involved with the Alcohol Health Alliance. And she knows, a lot of we've had lots of discussions about the Sober Coach training that I offer. And as I'm sure many of you know, I work with coaches who are going to be working with people who are grey area drinkers. So as you know, that term relates to people who are drinking more than they want to. They're somewhere on that spectrum, but we don't work with those who are alcohol dependent. And one of the conversations I had with Susan was, one of my greatest kind of frustrations is that as sober coaches, we are very clear on who we work with and ensure that, we've got all our kind of risk assessments and ethics in place, and we work with people who are functioning, who are grey area drinkers. We don't work with people who are clinically dependent. That isn't our remit. But if only we had some, kind of unified, if you like, at least UK-wide resources to be able to signpost those people too. How amazing would that be? But in my experience, there are some pockets of support across the UK, but it certainly isn't unified. It certainly isn't obvious as to where you can send those people for help, other than obviously the GP as the first step. So I'm just pitching that out there in case you have amazing stuff going on in your area that you know about. Please let me know, because at some point it would be great to be able to gather more of a list of support of what might be available. But someone who is working on all of this at government level is Sir Ian Gilmore, and Susan introduced me to Ian. He works with the University of Liverpool. Is the chair of the Alcohol Health Alliance UK, and really at those kind of top government levels, he's really getting his hands dirty in all of this stuff. And I think there are very few people who are. So I was very grateful that he was willing to take the time to chat to us on the podcast. I'm so pleased that my guest is Ian Gilmore, who is the chair of the Alcohol Health Alliance. Professor Sir Ian Gilmore, I should say. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Not at all. My pleasure.
It's great to be able to chat to you, because I was interested to introduce to your work by Susan Laurie, who is, doing some amazing stuff in this arena. And it's not an area that we talk about a lot on this podcast because, fortunately, many people listening to this podcast, they're in a position where they have dealt with stuff before it got too bad. And, for that personally, I'm incredibly grateful that I didn't wait until I got to rock bottom, as it were. But I'd love to know a bit about the work that you do. Could you just tell me a bit about your background and what kind of got you into this work?
Okay, well, in a way, it's the exact opposite to what you've just said. I've tended to see people who've got into problems without really realizing it, because I'm a gastroenterologist by background, and my particular interest has been liver disease.
Right.
And something like 70% of liver disease deaths are from alcohol-related liver disease.
Are they really? Wow.
Cirrhosis caused by alcohol. Now, there are 30% of other causes of cirrhosis, but and in fact, that's a big problem, because if somebody says they've got cirrhosis, people assume it's related to alcohol, whereas 3 out of 10 of them have probably got cirrhosis from another quite unrelated cause. But anyway, to use the public health analogy, I spent my professional career pulling drowning people out of the river without ever thinking of walking upstream to see why they were falling in and finding a rickety bridge that one could repair and stop people falling in. So I became, as well as it were, treating advanced cirrhosis related to alcohol, I got interested in how do we stop it happening in the first place.
Yeah.
So my background is clinical, but not addiction. I'm not a psychiatrist. I did once do a degree in psychology many, many years ago, but my interest has been in clinical medicine, ill patients with physical illnesses, the physical consequences of alcohol. But when I was president of the Royal College of Physicians in the mid-2000s for 4 years, for the first time in my life, someone other than my mother listened to what I said, and I had a chance to do something. And I set up the Alcohol Health Alliance, which is really what it says on the tin. It's a loose alliance. We're not a legal entity, but we have more than 60 organizations that have as one of their priorities trying to reduce the harm from alcohol, both the physical and mental harm. We get together and share our priorities. We produce reports. We Our two main areas are firstly prevention, how to particularly get government to adopt evidence-based policies that will stop people falling into that proverbial river, but also trying to improve treatment services, because access to treatment services is appallingly poor in this country, and much poorer access, for example, than people with drug-related problems. So one of our priorities is to improve that access to treatment for people that are aware they're falling into difficulties. An innovation that I think perhaps one of the few successes over the last couple of decades has been alcohol care teams in hospitals. Now, virtually every general acute hospital will have an alcohol care team with a consultant in charge, and perhaps some specially trained nurses so that if someone who comes in, having fallen over and broken a leg, but have clearly got an alcohol problem, they were referred to the alcohol care team, and they're expert at kind of trying to plan the next steps for the patient. And that's been a great success, I think, within hospitals, but there's still a huge gap between being in the hospital and then going home again. And then so many patients fall through the cracks, as it were, between inpatient care and going home. And that's an area that really needs urgent care. I think I'm probably talking too much.
No, not at all. No, it's really interesting. I mean, I'd love to pick up on a few of the things you mentioned there. Firstly, you said that there's more available for people who have issues with drugs. Of course, alcohol is a drug, isn't it? It's just that it's legal. Right. It's just that it's legal, isn't it? So, and this is where one of the biggest problems lie is that, we say drugs and alcohol. Of course, it is. Absolutely. It is a harmful drug.
You pick me up on something I pick up other people on.
I know. But
I try and talk about alcohol,
we all do it.
Alcohol and other drugs is what we should say. But
this is one of the key issues, isn't it? Because it's legal, because we all do it, or a huge percentage of people do it, because many people in the medical profession drink, because a lot of the surveys and the studies that we read come from alcohol companies who are involved in the marketing. I don't know your opinion on that, but this is one of the issues. How do we start with that? How do we get people to recognize this is a harmful drug?
Yes. It's our favorite drug, and
yes,
as a nation, and it goes back thousands of years, and we are, the aim of the Alcohol Health Alliance is not to make the whole country abstinent. We're not a temperance movement, but we want to see the harm from alcohol eliminated. Now, it's not practical to believe it's going to go away completely, but we think it can be minimized.
Yes. Yes.
And although at one level there's no safe amount of alcohol, and any alcohol will increase your risk, for example, of some cancers. But there's a difference between population risk and individual risk.
Yeah.
You'll be familiar with the chief medical officer's recommended upper limits of consumption of about 14 units a week. Well, 14 units a week equates roughly to having a 1 in 100 chance of dying of an alcohol-related cause. And, if your risk of going out on the road with 1 in 100, you'd feel a bit unhappy about it. But on the other hand, other people might think 1 in 100 is not a bad risk, but at least it gives you some idea of what the risks are. Now, if we could shift the whole population consumption down, if everybody in the country started drinking 5 units a week less, we would save probably thousands of lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
If one person reduced their alcohol consumption from 18 units to 13 units a week, they'd reduce their risk of dying from an alcohol-related cause from 1 in 80 to 1 in 120. So, which is still 1 in 80 is still pretty good odds. So, the individuals who are at real harm are those who are drinking much more heavily than that.
Yeah.
But in terms of population harm, stress on the National Health Service, etc., then getting everyone to drink less, even those who are not drinking very heavily at the moment, would bring its benefits.
And have you seen a big change I did see a study recently that said that, I think it was 2019, there was an NHS study that said it was something like over 60% of people were drinking 14 units a week or more, and now it's come down to, I forget the percentage, but something like 10 units a week.
There have been some changes. The problem is that most studies on alcohol use patient-reported consumption, and we know. And
of course we lie, don't we? Of course we do.
We lie. I mean, the old adage that the doctor doubles what the patient tells them
exactly
is probably just about right.
About right, yeah, exactly.
And it isn't always willful lying. It's when people forget the special occasion,
of course,
the Christmas and it's thought that the average person over a fortnight's annual holiday in Spain or whatever will drink the equivalent of several months in the rest of the year, and that doesn't come out in the doctor's history. So the data are not very reliable. Probably more reliable are data that come from alcohol sales and duty payments. But then, of course, that's confused by tourists coming in and other people doing the drinking, etc. But overall, there's been no measurable fall in consumption. If anything, it's possibly rising. There was some interesting data over COVID. Over COVID, it seemed those who drank small amounts moderately tended to reduce their consumption during lockdown, whereas those who were already heavy drinkers tended to increase their consumption.
Yeah, that
they
makes
were
sense.
More susceptible to stress or whatever. But of course, we saw harm go up because those at greatest risk of harm are those who are drinking more. And so it was almost like a group of people who were already on the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
don't get me started on that, Sir Ian, because I would not have been in favour of leaving off licences open when gyms were closed. But that's another topic, isn't it?
No, you could get me talking on that for a long time. I said I give lectures on the impact of COVID on alcohol consumption.
I bet.
But what is interesting is that younger people are genuinely drinking less.
I know, isn't that great?
And the group that are really worrying at the moment are the older people who are perhaps have more disposable income. Yeah. Not paying off mortgages, and not only are they drinking more, but they're also at greater risk because they're the ones who got high blood pressure and heart disease and so on.
Yeah,
and those are the ones who are at risk of falling down the stairs and having a head injury on their way up to bed at night. Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm getting the sense that the work you're doing is obviously really important because the aim is to let's catch this earlier, effectively. Let's catch the whole thing earlier before the horse is bolted, as it were, before they're in the river, as you say. Now, I don't know your view on this, and I know you work within the NHS, so it's possibly not something you can comment on. But for me personally, one of the biggest frustrations is that there seems to be very little awareness within the front face, your GPs, your consult, people you see at the beginning of whatever you've got going on. There seems to be very little awareness of the impact on your drinking on whatever else you have going on. So what I mean by that is I have lots of one-to-one clients who come to me for coaching, and they'll say, I'll ask them, for example, are you on antidepressants? And they'll say, yes. After my divorce, they nearly always say, I'm not clinically depressed, but after my divorce, I was not in a great place. So I was put on antidepressants. And then I'll ask, were you asked about your drinking? Absolutely not. So these people are on antidepressants and they're downing sometimes a bottle of wine a night. In addition to that, many of them are also on HRT. So again, you know, and nobody I know has ever been asked. I mean, how bizarre is that? They're not even asked. If they were asked and the answer was, well, yeah, I do drink. I have a couple of glasses of wine a night, as you say, double it. What they'll be told, and I know from personal experience, what they'll be told in almost every case is, oh, well, you know, just you seem fine, but just have the odd alcohol-free day.
Yes, I'm not proud of our success in the NHS in asking patients about alcohol consumption. I know that GPs are incredibly busy. Junior doctors, again, you know, rushing from pillar to post. And awareness should be higher. I wrote a paper in 1977 saying that junior doctors were not taking alcohol histories. And I don't think we've improved an awful lot since then. I think hospitals have improved a bit. And I think these alcohol care teams that I spoke about, I think have helped to increase awareness. But I do think we need to do an awful lot more to tackle the stigma against alcohol, people with alcohol problems.
Yeah,
you know, they're often seen in A&E departments as revolving door patients. Oh, there's blogs back again. But of course, the staff don't see the ones that don't come back. And I think one of the key messages is that even people who are, you know, have reached the bottom of the spiral that you referred to, I think some of those do turn the corner and come back. And it's very satisfying to look after those patients who do. So I think there is work to do in the NHS, and the NHS is not in a good place in general at the moment to try and preach the prevention strategies. And governments have, you know, we've not had an alcohol strategy for 10 years. And
I mean, governments is another one, isn't it? It's very difficult. If you can't lead in any way by example, it's really tough. I mean, some of the messaging that has been coming out recently, I mean, we can't deny it. It's absolute nonsense. You know, some of the stuff they come out with about their Friday wine parties or whatever, it's actually not funny.
No,
I know they're trying to be funny, but it's actually not funny.
And I think the problem with governments is that they're, you know, it's a 5-year term, and so anything that's going to take more than 5 years to kick in, which prevention is usually a fairly long-term strategy, they're just not interested in. And as you've mentioned, the power of the drinks industry is just phenomenal. In you know, if you try and put duty up 5p or something on a pint of beer, you'll be told straight away that, you know, there'll be thousands of people unemployed as a result, and the treasury will go broke, which of course is the opposite. Alcohol costs the country more than it brings in revenue and jobs.
That's it. Oh, what you mean, because of the harms?
Yes.
The NHS. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, the NHS harms also are the most severe and the most noticeable, but the other sorts of hidden social harms and loss of employment and all sorts of other things, crime and disorder. Yeah. I read somewhere, and I've no reason to disbelieve it, that 40% of ambulance time is taken up by alcohol-related problems.
Wow.
That's just staggering.
That really is. So, I mean, I know this is a massive question, but if you could wave a magic wand, or at least a magic wand wave based in some kind of reality, what would you like to see happen? What's realistic that you would like to see happen?
Well, I think we can learn a lot from cigarettes.
Yes.
Admittedly, the end game was different. The end game is to eliminate tobacco completely from society, because it has no redeeming features at all. But the thing that's changed smoking habits more than anything else has been putting up the price. It's gone up hugely.
Well, and also stopping people smoking in public places has made a difference, hasn't it?
That was certainly helpful too. So I would tackle the price. It's much cheaper in real terms than it was 20, 30 years ago. is probably about a third of the price in real terms that it was 20 or 30 years ago. We've been turned into a home drinking nation by cheap supermarket alcohol.
Yeah.
It may be slightly more expensive, slightly cheaper rather in real terms in bars and restaurants, but it's almost pocket money prices in supermarkets. And of course, the biggest offender are things like white cider, where you can get, more than your
units,
40 units a week in one bottle of
that's unbelievable, isn't it?
Cider, and that's something that minimum unit price has hit in Scotland. It's virtually eliminated that white cider. So I would look at duty and minimum unit price. They work together. They're complementary. I would work on some quick gains where everyone is behind us. The drink driving limit. There are 2 countries in Europe that have a limit of 80. That's us and Malta.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
The rest of Europe is.
I mean, aren't I right in thinking that even in Scotland you can't have one drink?
It's in Scotland. It's 50.
Okay. So that's practically not a drink, is it?
We're 80. We should be coming down probably to 20, which allows for a little, a strong aftershave or something, setting off the breathalyzer. But otherwise, it's in effect not drinking. Another quick win that I think everyone agrees with is having proper labelling. There's more information on a bottle of milk than there is on a bottle of wine.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
So those are quick wins. I think improving early detection of people who are beginning to run into trouble without realizing it, and offering them help that's not stigmatized. I think there's a real problem if you put alcohol and drug treatment services physically together, because I think people still see themselves as being different from a crack cocaine user or a heroin addict. Absolutely. I agree. So we certainly need to improve our treatment services. I think we need to get the message out there that it's not just a matter of free choice of the individual. Firstly, nobody asks to be alcohol dependent and to get cirrhosis of the liver or brain damage from alcohol or whatever. It's not a choice. Alcohol dependence is a disease. It's probably 50% genetic, and then there's the environment with the advertising and go on, have a drink being thrown at people, every day. So I think we need to try and destigmatize people with problems. We need to look at the roots of the problems, which are the price, the marketing, and the availability. What sense does it make that you can buy a bottle of whiskey at 2:00 in the morning at a petrol station?
Yeah, exactly.
So those are the 3 big evidence-based things: price, availability, and marketing. But then we also want to do things like inform the public better. There's no government-funded, public health messaging going on.
No, exactly.
There is Drink Aware, which is funded by the drinks industry, and there are many publications drawing serious concern to Drink Aware. I know a lot of people who work in the organisation do it for the best of motives, but they are virtually completely funded by the drinks industry, and that isn't.
No, absolutely.
That isn't independent advice. So we need to get much better information out there. And we need to draw attention to the fact that it isn't just the drinker. It's not just their choice it's the harm to others, through from the unborn baby, through to the children of dependent parents, through to the victims of domestic violence, and the list is endless. And although secondhand smoke probably does cause some harm, it's nothing like the magnitude of the harm. The secondary harm, as it were, from alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing you picked up on there, talking about people being able to get support earlier, and you're right. The stigma has to go as well, because I know I've had one client that I was talking to had gone to her GP to, express her concern. She was, drinking. Things were definitely ramping up. She could sense that, she was not in a good place. But the very first thing that seemingly had to happen was her employer had to be contacted.
Mm. Now,
that's going to be the deciding factor, right? I wish I'd not said anything, and maybe it's better not, she'll now be telling anyone else who's in the same boat, do not go to your GP because they'll tell your employer. So then you'll potentially lose your job. Your kids might be taken from you. It's like, please, this is the fear people have.
I'm very surprised by that. I think if a GP thinks someone is drink driving, for example,
yeah, of course,
then they would have an obligation. But then otherwise, I wouldn't.
It's not always the case.
No, certainly not.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I mean, obviously, I agree with everything you're saying. That if we can put those things in place, wouldn't it be great if we can actually get some prevention in before everything gets too far down the line. I think something absolutely has to be done about this, about the fact that the alcohol industry controls so much. That surely something can be done about their marketing, because it's everywhere. You can't buy a birthday card for a young man that doesn't contain pictures of booze. I mean, there's not every single thing, and it's all about the glamour of. It's actually completely, all of it is BS. The glamour about. They never show you, funnily enough, what happens after their clients have consumed their products, because that's not quite so glamorous and elegant, is it?
I mean, in some ways, I don't blame the drinks industry, because their first obligation is to their shareholders.
Of course, they're selling their products.
I blame government for
exactly, for allowing it.
I've wasted years of my life on voluntary partnerships between government and industry, where industry agree to do all sorts of things and then drag their feet for years and nothing happens. I often think if I turned right rather than left out of the school gates, I might have ended up working for Diageo. And if so, I would have, you can't do something without developing a belief in it. And I think if you sell Persil washing powder, you end up believing it washes whiter. Otherwise, you'd go mad. And so I think people in the drinks industry will look for the evidence that is more in favour rather than against.
Yeah, true. Well, I think all we can do then perhaps is meet where we touch and counter that with as much information as we can and awareness as we can as to the benefits of choosing not to drink.
Yeah.
Right. How about we talk more about that? Because the benefits
of not drinking. So many people tell me, that they sleep better, their skin is better, their energy is better.
Their mental health and well-being is, the changes just can't be overestimated. It really can't. And, the link between mental health and anxiety and alcohol use, you cannot deny that. It's, it really is massive, but we don't talk about the benefits. Well, I do, but it's not talked about enough.
Get people to write to their MPs, go and see their MPs.
All right. Is that worth doing? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'll get mine off straight away.
One thing an MP wants is to be re-elected. And
great.
This present government have woefully failed to bring in any evidence-based policies.
Right. Okay.
Reduce the harm.
Okay. Well, that's really helpful. I think we can all do that. It's great to chat to you, Sir Ian. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing. I mean, we really need people fighting this corner, don't we, at the top level? So it's much appreciated.
Well, we need people doing what you're doing as well.
Yeah, I guess. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ian. And of course, just a reminder that if working with people who are ditching the booze is something that you would like to think about, or if you want to sort of lay the foundations for your own sobriety, It's always an amazing thing to do, then you might be interested in the Sober 360 coach training. And we've got a free session, a free kind of webinar on Tuesday, the 22nd. And the title is, What Does It Mean to Be a Sober Coach? So 22nd of November is the date for that. I think we've got it 7:45 UK time. Sorry, I mean Wednesday, don't I? I apologise. Wednesday, 22nd of November, 7:45. What does it mean to be a sober coach? It's free to attend. It's not a big sell. I'm definitely not trying to sell in inverted commas. I just love to have a conversation with people. My belief is that the right people show up for these things. I work with very small numbers because it's very hands-on and one-to-one, and we have a couple of days in person for those people who can make it. So it's it's really kind of intensive and powerful for the people that take part. So I really believe if it's right for you, it's right. So I don't need to do any heavy selling. I'm not that good anyway. I'm not very good at anything like that. But it's Wednesday the 22nd, 7:45 p.m. UK time. So if that's you, or if it's somebody that you know, please pass it on. I appreciate it. For most of you, you're not interested in that at all, and that's completely fine. So don't forget, if you want to join us in the Sober Club, it's thesoberclub.com. Masses of amazing resources. In terms of events, we have after that webinar, we're going to do a Family Constellations online session for those people who are not able to get to the UK, and that's going to be the first or second week of December. Still firming up that date. I do have my Sober Club Christmas meetup with special guest Catherine Gray. So super excited for that. The tickets are sold out, but do check back because we have a waiting list for that. That's on December the 5th. And we'll be putting lots of other things in place as well, of course. Looking forward to doing some more events in January in Manchester. There'll definitely be more constellations coming up, of course, too. So whatever stage you're at, just a reminder, always reach out. If joining the Sober Club is not your thing, it's absolutely fine. Do whatever you want to do, but do tell someone. If you just drop me a message, I'll do my best to respond if I can. Tell someone, because when it's just you holding up with your the thoughts in your head, then I can assure you the fading effect bias will kick in and it really won't be fab. It will kick in and it will tell you, start tomorrow. Oh, you're not that bad anyway. Oh, come on. Sober people are really boring, and all the rest of it. So get connected so that other people can be your cheerleaders, be your support. Just very gently challenge you to maybe, give this a real go, because it's probably time. If you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, I wonder, then it's probably time. You know the question that I always ask. It's for you to ask yourself, could my life be better physically and emotionally without the booze? That's it, really. Could my life be better? And if you're already sober, then thank you for continuing to listen to this podcast. Thank you for continuing to be part of the Sober Club if you're part of that. It's really special to have people who are at so many different stages, because everyone has got something to contribute. Just like that post on the Facebook group, it's amazing to be reminded that we all need to stay on guard, for when that fading effect bias comes in, all of us. So by having that connection, it really makes all the difference. So whatever you're doing this week, have a great week, and remember to drop me a message. Follow me on social media at Janey Lee Grace. If you don't want to join us in the Sober Club, but you'd like to contribute to this work, you can contribute to the Sober Club Give Back Fund, which is our kind of charity part, or you can just go to buymeacoffee.com/Janey Lee Grace. And well, obviously, if we get to meet in person, that'll be even better. Mine will be a flat white. See you next week. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by the Sober Club. Please rate and review. And if you want support, accountability and inspiration, and you want to live your best life without the booze, check out thesoberclub.com.